So essentially, like one of the biggest things going on right now, and I just put a clip out me talking about critical race theory. This is the same thing, right? And when I say it's the same thing, I mean this is right-wing people tricking liberals and leftists into arguing about something that they shouldn't be arguing about, right? So essentially, this DEI thing, right? DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. All right, so let's read this. Let's listen to this this joint real quick. And this is some random white men on the podcast talking, but let's listen to it.
And that's why I think this United story and the DEI story hits so hard, because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits, or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off. And I feel better now thinking about that. No, I mean, like,
you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
Okay, so you heard what he said, right? Yeah. So what essentially is what they're trying to say, which the one guy was about to allude to, is that you wouldn't have had these thoughts before DEI, but now that they have this DEI thing, you're thinking that some people are getting jobs without being qualified for it, right? And like I said, DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're about to fall for this thing, right? The liberals and the left people are about to fall for this thing that's going on by the right. I consider myself independent, so I'm gonna talk about them as if I'm not one of them, because I'm not one of them. So they're about to fall for it again. Another argument that is not based on anything, but they're gonna argue it just to have the argument because they don't understand what's happening. Let me Dan, where we at here? Here we go. So pretty much what's going on is the right are saying that a lot of these hires right now, where you seeing people get hired in high places at different corporations around the country and the world, they're getting hired because of these forced diversity rules, I guess, right? And because of forced diversity, we're getting lower quality goods and services because the person who's getting hired is not qualified to be doing the job, right? So the conversation kind of went viral. That one that I just played went kind of viral because they were saying, like, is this racism or whatever, right? And I just had to let it be known that what he was doing right there is more in line with being a bigot, not racism. And I'm about to tell you why, because in this stage, this is where we want to invoke Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's definition of racism, not the dictionary, because I think she is more than qualified and has done more than enough studying on race in this country, especially, and around the world, to speak on what racism is and what it isn't. And what she says is that racism is about power and the ability to exact power over somebody else. So white people making random statements about black people like they just stupid. That person is just stupid. That's not racism, because that man don't have no power to do nothing. That's called bigotry. And we don't even care what he thinks about black pilots. It don't matter. It becomes racism if hiring managers at American Airlines, United, Delta, if they believe that type of stuff, now we got racism in play, because now they have the power to stop black pilots from getting jobs in mass numbers, right? So that's racism. You see the difference right there? So I want people to understand that when you hear these little white people making their little comments about black people, like, don't even dignify the shit, because they have no power over us. It's the corporations and stuff. Now, if these white people have power, then that racist comment does have power, or that ignorant comment does have power. But these little random niggas on podcasts and stuff like that, like, we don't care if he want a black pilot or not. Like, who cares? Who is he? You understand what I'm saying? Like, who cares? So let me read about, and this is something I just realized, that DEI, this is not something, even though they're trying to play this game with me, this is not something that comes from, they're trying to pin it on the civil rights movement. But I'm gonna just let it be known, this is not something that comes from the civil rights movement. This is co-opted. This is called being co-opted. So this is I'm gonna read to y'all what DEI is, right? And then I'm gonna let it be known where they're trying to say that this thing comes from. So What is DEI? Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a term used to describe policies and programs that promote the representation and participation of different groups of individuals. DEI encompasses people of different ages, races, ethnicities, abilities, disabilities, genders, religions, cultures, and sexual orientation. It also covers people with diverse backgrounds, experiences, skills, and expertise. What does that sound a lot like? That sounds a lot like All Lives Matter, participation trophy type shit. Everybody is valuable, which is not false. Everybody is valuable. But the problem is when you read about the origin, it starts to become more clear what's going on here. Here's what the origin supposedly story is. The DEI movement in the United States is not new. It has its roots in the 1960s civil rights movement and has grown to include gender, sexual orientation, religion, country of origin, and other ethnicities. Now, when you hear something like that and it says it has its roots in civil rights movement, you know why they come up with stuff like that? Like these type of framings around these topics? It's because they don't want black people to push back against it. They want black people to think, y'all came up with this. But when you really look at it, there's a subtext that's not here, but I'm finding it. What it really saying is that black people was fighting for black rights. Somebody tricked us into calling it civil rights. Okay, but black people was fighting for black rights, AKA civil rights. Somebody didn't like that. It was like, that's too black specific right there. We need to broaden this thing out. That's why affirmative action is not for black people. Everybody that's not a straight white man benefits from affirmative action. That's where this DEI stuff comes from. It comes from whoever was around at that time and wanted and felt like black people are benefiting too much specifically for whatever is going on. The laws are being changed specifically to try to help them. We need this wording to be more broad. We needed to include women. We needed to include gay people. We needed to include Latino people. We needed to include Asian people. We needed to include white women somehow, which is why gender is also listed on the joint. We needed to include Jewish people, religion. We needed to include everybody. We need the civil rights struggle to not be about black people. We need to change this thing. So then somebody sneakily came up with this DEI thing and probably said this inspiration comes from the civil rights struggle, or AKA the black rights struggle that got co-opted and turned into a civil rights struggle, right? So that's what it tells me here. Somebody flipped the script and made DEI a black thing. And now you got white people out here telling us you only got that job because of DEI laws. Whole time, they ain't hiring no black people because of DEI. They don't have to hire black people because of that. And so instead of having these arguments about, hey, well, before DEI laws and before DEI rules, there wouldn't be any black this, XYZ, because y'all are racist. So y'all, that's the argument that those white people want you to have. That's a trick. And that's how they got y'all with CRT. That's a trick. What you should tell them is pull up one of those rules and regulations. Tell me where it says they got to hire a black person. That's what you should say. Since you know everything about DEI and since DEI is so bad, show me the rule. Or since you know it's so good, you don't even have to show it to me. You recite the rule. Show me where it says they had to hire me for this job. What's the rule? Most of the time you're going to find out the people on these shows and on these media platforms repeating this stuff, they have never seen a DEI rule, law, regulation, or policy ever. They never looked them up. They've never seen it. Their arguments would be different if they did. Right? So that's you make them have an intellectual debate. Don't make them have an emotional one, because they're going to win the emotional one because you care more about it than they do. They don't even know what the hell is going on with it. They just repeating something they heard on Tucker Carlson's show. They have no idea what these rules say. Most of them haven't ever read a law in their life. Definitely not an EEOC type of regulation or nothing like that. They don't know nothing about hiring. They don't know that the hiring stuff just says basic language in it. It definitely don't say, yo, you got to be out here hiring white people. I mean, hiring black people. It don't say that. For sure don't say that. So that's where if you want to let them get into one of these debates with you, make them start citing some of these rules, man. Tell them, hey, break it down for me. Tell me what the law say. Because it'd be like, hey, play ignorant with them. Hey, that's crazy that you say that. I don't even know I never looked it up. Can you tell me what the DEI rules say? Watch them say some stupid shit. They're going to repeat something stupid. They're more than likely going to repeat something that they heard on another podcast.
SOD, cuz bitches love initials.
That's all they're going to do. They're going to repeat something that they heard somebody else say. They have never read about it. It's the same thing I was saying about people talking about black people spending and being wrong, completely wrong. They never looked it up in their life. They'd have looked it up. They would have never repeated that. It's the same thing with DEI. Had they looked up any of this DEI stuff, they would have known that their wife is the biggest beneficiary of that. Not black people. Your white wife got the job because of DEI, not me. I got the job because I was hyper qualified. Y'all came up with the overqualified term. I got the job because I had to prove why I would be a good fit. They didn't hire me and then give me this 3-year trial like they did with your wife, who was super unqualified to do this job. She got the job because of DEI. The person that's helping you pay your bills every month got the job because of DEI. Your mom got hired because of DEI. Your kids are going to get jobs versus, not my kids, but your kids are going to get jobs over those Latino kids because of DEI. Not me. Everybody already know that how massively qualified a black person got to be to get a job. So if you see us in there, it's because we probably could have been the CEO for real. That's really what it was going on here. So I get it. You know what I'm saying? We all got podcasts. We all got stuff we like to say. The difference between my podcast and the other white podcast that's going to tell y'all some shit they never looked up. I actually looked some of this stuff up. And if I'm talking about it, I looked all of it up. But these people don't be knowing what they be talking about sometimes. Most of the time. They are just good at debating. And people fall for the debate tactics instead of saying, let's recenter this thing and get back to what we are talking about. Mm-hmm. Tell me the law or the rule or the policy that says the black person has to get hired. Because I guarantee you, we can show you where this description in DEI applies to a lot of white people. So should we look at white people as DEI hirees? Because when you remove things in programs like DEI, you know what you get? The NBA having 70% black. When you start to just hiring people based on merit alone and are you good enough to be here, black people will take over a lot of the stuff that's going on. They have to actively lock us out of them. See, that's the part that will hurt a lot of their feelings. To find out that when we get into spaces, we tend to elevate them, which goes back to my conversation about black scholarship and intellectualism. When we get in, it's elevated. That's across the board. Whether you think somebody's dumb or not, you put a black person in there, it's going to start morphing into something a lot greater than what it probably was beforehand. They want to believe that once you add black people in, a bunch of criminal stuff come with it. But no, y'all use criminals as examples and just say like, look at this. Now, there was a criminal before they got there.
So we learned criminalism from them.
If you put a black scholar in this situation, it's normally going to be elevated. That's just how it's going to go. You understand what's going on? And that's what a lot of them don't like, the fact that you get a black person in there that got the same job title as you and they get to challenge what you're saying. That's the part you don't like. It's not the fact that they're blacking in that job. It's not the fact that you don't think the black pilot is qualified to do the job or not. The problem is you think that if you have a problem in there, that black pilot is not going to be standing on your side with it. He might not take your side. You can't argue. You can't plead a case to these. Black people start getting in these positions. You can't plead your white case to them. You can't do the whole chummy buddy thing with the black person that's in authority. That's what the real issue is. You know what I'm saying? They hate and the white people going to call the police and a black cop show up. They hate that.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
They hate that. They like, damn it.
Especially you calling them on some
where's the supervisor? Where's the sergeant at? Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Where's the sergeant at?
Some Karen shit. And they,
come on, man. Talk. And they all Karens. They try to come up with another name for the men. The men, the Karens too. They all Karens. And I don't even like that. Like, cause that's becoming a people like scared to say white people. No, they be white and stupid sometimes. Like Karen is too nice to me, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like, cause there's some black Karens and they be cool. Like Karen Civil, shout out to her. But you know, you gotta get on them, man. Like, yeah. If all they doing is coming up with these, and they are picking the Democrats apart with these arguments. I can't believe y'all let them get rid of affirmative action in colleges. That's from Democrats not being good at arguing. That y'all don't let them people get rid of Roe versus Wade. That's from Democrats not being good at arguing. These people they about to get rid of DEI and got rid of talking about race in the schools. y'all letting them spank you like this. Like, this is just a debate conversation. I mean, this is a topic of who's better at debating this stuff. They are killing y'all right now.